with a wholesome view. We offer you to be where the news are happening with our team of 25 correspondents deployed around the globe. Live and experience the realities of our people from the South. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Live from Quito, Ecuador, I'm Sweeney Gray, and this is from the South, the Midday News Brief from Telesur English. We start this new edition right now. The confrontation between Catalonia and the Spanish government has come to a head as Catalonia officially declared independence ahead of a vote in the Spanish Senate, where Madrid was expected to seize power in the region. The Catalan Regional Parliament voted 70-10 for independence in a ballot that was boycotted by opposition MPs. The move came in response to the Spanish Senate's planned triggering of Article 155. The Catalan parties, Juntos for Yes and the Popular Unity candidacy, have already written up and approved a constitution for the new Republic of Catalonia.
After everything that has been said, we as democratic representatives of the people of Catalonia, and exercising the right of self-determination, and according to the mandate received from the people in Catalonia, we construct the Catalonia Republic as an independent and sovereign state of democratic and social rights. We enter in a state of vigor of the transitionary law and the foundation of the Republic.
Following the vote for independence, the Spanish Senate went ahead and passed Article 155. Minutes after Catalonia declared independence, the upper house of Spanish Parliament authorized Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy to directly rule Catalonia from Madrid. The application of Article 155 will enable Madrid to fire Catalan leaders and take control of the region's finances, infrastructure, police and public media. Rajoy is now expected to convene his cabinet to take the first steps in governing Catalonia.
214 yes, 47 no, 1 abstention. Therefore, the measure is approved regarding the government's requirement to the Senate on the approval of the measures in Article 155 of the Constitution. We will communicate these results to the government, to the Generalitat of Catalonia, and to the Spanish Parliament.
The Spanish left is badly divided over the Catalan situation. Pablo Iglesias, leader of the Podemos party, has called the Declaration of Independence illegitimate, echoing the position of the Spanish government. Iglesias tweeted that we are against repression and for negotiated referendum, but the Declaration of Independence is illegitimate and favors the strategy of the PP government. And Germany was one of the first European countries to say it will not recognize an independent Catalonia. A tweet from the German delegation in the EU said the German federal government does not recognize the unilateral statement of independence by the regional parliament. Our correspondent Romina Piñate has more from Catalonia.
I'm standing close to the parliament where today, with 70 votes in favor, 10 against and 2 abstentions, the independence of Catalonia was declared. It was done after the presentation this same morning of a resolution that explained the parties of Catalonia are assuming the people's decision of the referendum of October 1st. The parliament has declared Catalonia independent and sovereign. Meanwhile, the Senate in Madrid has given a green light to the application of Article 155, as Mariano Rajoy asked the Spanish people via Twitter to remain calm, and he reassured them he will restore the rule of law in the region. The citizens of Catalonia are gathering on the streets to celebrate, but also fearing of what can happen from now on.
Romina Pignate from Catalonia. Protesters have gathered in French Guiana to demonstrate against high unemployment and crime in the French colonial territory. The protests were sparked by the visit of French President Emmanuel Macron to the territory. Police used tear gas to try and disperse the more than 1,000 people gathered in the capital, Cayenne, on Thursday night. 5 people were arrested and 2 police officers were reportedly injured. Macron faced the protesters and told them, "I am not Father Christmas because the people of Guyana are not children." Comments which further angered the protesters. It's Independence Day in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. On October 27, 1979, the islands became the last of the Windwards to become an independent state. The annual Independence Day ceremony took place in Victoria Park and featured the traditional military presentations in front of a packed crowd. Since last week, parts of South and East Trinidad were under water after a sustained period of unusually heavy rainfall. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management was heavily criticized for its slow response to the crisis. The Deputy CEO of the ODPM, retired Colonel Dave Williams, was criticized for his seemingly callous response to the organization's failure, causing even the Prime Minister to say that a review of the management agency was pending. On Wednesday, the retired colonel submitted his resignation, explaining that the ODPM is actually a coordinating agency and not a first responding one. He also released a video where he apologized to the national community for his comments.
I am Colonel retired Dave Williams, and I have resigned my position as Deputy CEO of the ODPM. Please accept my unreserved apology for the recent situation. I fully accept that my words were insensitive and inappropriate and made me appear to lack empathy for you. My many years in emergency management have made me quite aware of the pain that hazards can cause. I hope that we can use this opportunity as a learning experience for everyone. Thank you for listening.
Now, the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, said it had no involvement in the decision to award a multi-million-dollar contract to a 2-person utility company, Whitefish Energy Holdings. The company, which has ties to a Donald Trump supporter, was awarded the $300 million contract to restore Puerto Rico's power grid. FEMA said the federal government isn't a party to the contract, and the agency has not approved any of the company's requests to be reimbursed for ongoing repair works to the island's power grid. And they said that they were significantly concerned about the award of the contract. The 7th Assembly of the People of the Caribbean, the APC, is continuing in the Dominican Republic to discuss issues of importance to the peoples of the region. The conference opened with a celebration of the 100-year anniversary of the Russian Revolution. Delegates came from all over the region to take part in the conference. They are expected to talk about food sovereignty, agrarian reform, climate change, social movement, and migration. The APC was created to try to create a more integrated Caribbean. The 7th conference ends October 30th. And David Denny, the Caribbean Secretary of the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration from Barbados, sent us this report.
David Denny, General Secretary for the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration in Barbados. At present, I am in the Dominican Republic, attending the Assembly of Caribbean Peoples Conference. For us, the main issue at this conference will be to look at the issues relating to Haiti, the Dominican Republic. This is one of the issues that we would be looking at this conference. At this conference, we would also pass a resolution that would create the conditions for us to show solidarity with the Haitian people. We will look at other issues relating to Venezuela, solidarity with Venezuela, solidarity with Cuba, solidarity with Ecuador, solidarity with Bolivia, solidarity with the poor people of the Americas and the Caribbean. We will also be looking at the whole question in relation to some of our Caribbean nations that are still colonies of European nations and North America. And we would be speaking directly to the independence of these nations and to show our solidarity with the people and workers that have been fighting for independence in these nations. Thank you.
That report from David Denny in Barbados. We have more news in a minute. Stay with us. Cuban officials have delivered a preliminary report in their investigations into U.S. complaints of acoustic attacks on diplomats in Havana. The 30-minute broadcast report concluded that there's a lack of evidence to show that any attack occurred. The investigators explained that the U.S. supplied 14 recordings of a sound they say the victims heard during the alleged attack. But the findings concluded that these recordings did not contain anything that could damage human health.
U.S. authorities made Cuba responsible for the investigation, resolution, and elimination of the acts without assuming the full responsibility that corresponds to them as the affected country to participate in the investigation. They haven't given us access to the investigators or the facts because they informed us about it months, days, and even hours after it happened. We don't even have access to the victims or the witnesses.
Our correspondent in Havana, Laura Prada, has this report.
Yes, hello. Recently, Cuban authorities made public the preliminary result of the investigation carried out to clarify the alleged acoustic incidents happened to U.S. diplomatic personnel here in Havana. The evidence does not clarify the occurrence or the source of these events, and U.S. authorities have recognized Cuba's support to the course of investigation, even though Cuba says that they are welcome to work hand by hand with U.S. authorities on the clarification of this matter. Until now, this is all I can tell you. I get back to you.
Laura Prada in Cuba. Communities across Venezuela are taking a variety of initiatives in preparation for the local elections in December. The date was announced by the National Constituent Assembly on Thursday. Details in this report.
In Venezuela's communities, organized people are getting ready for a new electoral battle. These women clean their furniture in a popular clinic that functions in Soraniela's house, one of the women from La Pastora, a traditional middle-class area of Caracas. She says Venezuela has changed.
We work from the heart. We're working for our country, and what the opposition wants is destruction, because they don't contribute anything good, and they don't come here to the poor neighborhoods to know the needs of the people.
This is Roberto, a Chilean doctor who came to Venezuela to understand the reality here, which is so badly understood in his own country. Now he helps to organize the community councils.
Here the community gets organized to solve their problems themselves, not for someone else to come and help them. What they will never understand is that Chavismo comes from that, from participation. The biggest thing that was done in this political revolution is what Chavez always talked about, when he told everyone, you have worth, you have to organize because you can accomplish things.
A reality that not everyone has understood.
The
Venezuelan opposition has proven in recent years that it is an opposition that is disconnected from the country's reality, that really doesn't acknowledge what's going on or understand the Venezuelan people. And this opposition always responds to elections in the same way. When they won the elections in 2015, they were satisfied. It was a big blow to the Chavistas. But when they lose, they always claim fraud, but with no proof.
Una derrota importante para el chavismo.
And that's the kind of anti-democracy that the European Union has rewarded. The Venezuelan opposition got the Sakharov Award for their alleged fight for freedom and democracy in Venezuela. Social media exploded between opposition supporters and those who raised their voices to remind the European Union that they have given a price to the terrorism that Venezuela experienced for 4 months, and to the terrible treatment of Orlando Figuera, who was born alive for looking like a Chavista, an image that will not easily be forgotten during this new electoral campaign.
Members of the Lima Group in the Americas who have previously sought intervention in Venezuela through the Organization of the American States, the OAS, have agreed that further action is needed in order to isolate the South American country. On the sidelines of the Lima Group meeting, Venezuelan solidarity groups in Toronto interrupted a separate event with Venezuela's former Attorney General, Luisa Ortega Diaz. The Hugo Chavez Foundation released a statement calling on Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to refrain from interfering in Venezuela's domestic affairs. For the 5th day in a row, the political caravan, led by Brazil's former president Lula da Silva, has been traveling around the state of Minas Gerais. Millions of citizens across the state have turned out to greet Lula, who repeated his intention to fight for re-election next year. The founder of the Workers' Party harshly criticized the sell-off of Brazil's resources and the destruction of national industry by the government of Michel Temer. A country is great, he said, but not because of its territorial extension or wealth, but for the quality of life of its citizens. Our correspondent, Andre Vieira, is with the caravan in Minas Gerais.
We're still following the former president Lula da Silva's caravan around the state of Minas Gerais. We have to remember that this is the second leg of this visit and of this project that is also reaching other parts of the country. The state of Minas Gerais is one of the most important here in Brazil, as more than 20 million people live here. Today Lula is visiting Monte Claros, one of the biggest cities in the north of the state, where he will meet businessmen, social movements and workers. The caravan will come to an end on Monday in Belo Horizonte, as Lula promotes the social projection of his campaign for the presidential elections.
And the government of Michel Temer has taken its policy of selling public assets a step further. A controversial auction of exploitation rights in Brazil's huge offshore oil fields has begun. Our correspondent, Ignacio Limas, has the details.
Saludos, Reagan. Comenzó la subasta.
Hello. The auction of oil fields in Brazil's enormous deep-water oil basin has begun. Those are the oil fields off the coast of Espírito Santo, Rio de Janeiro, Bahia and São Paulo states. The Lula government invested a lot of money in exploring and preparing these reserves buried deep below the sea. And now the Temer government is going back to a policy of selling the exploitation rights. Before any sale to a foreign oil company had to include participation by the Brazilian state-controlled oil company Petrobras. For after the parliamentary coup and the Temer government measures, the obligation to include Petrobras no longer exists. This is an important loss for the Brazilian economy. Remember that President Dilma Rousseff had promised that a large part of the income from this deep-water oil would be spent on education and health provision, but that has been stopped with the Temer government. So this auction is gone ahead, and it was delayed after an appeal from the Workers' Party and the cut trade unions. But the appeal was rejected and the auction is underway. The oil blocks are being sold by the National Oil School Agency. We don't know yet who the buyers are, but Brazil will lose this important part of its national resources. We'll keep you informed as we learn more.
Detenida por un recurso que presentó el Partido de los Trabajadores y la Central Única de Trabajadores.
Ignacio Limas there. The family of Santiago Maldonado has met with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights in the Legislative Palace of Montevideo in Uruguay. The meeting was attended by Santiago Maldonado's brother and other relatives. Together with the Uruguayan Vice President Lucia Topolansky, the family requested that international experts be sent to Buenos Aires in Argentina to join the investigation into the arrest and death of Santiago, because they said they do not trust the Argentine government. In Honduras, human rights organizations and advocates have reacted to the video that confirms the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency's involvement in the massacre of Honduras in La Mosquita. Our correspondent has the details.
In
2012, during a combined operation between the Honduran army and the DEA, a canoe carrying 8 people was attacked.
On May 11th in 2012, my sister and my nephew, as well as another woman and man, were killed by gunfire from a helicopter. They killed 4 people, and here we are, still searching for justice.
Throughout the past 5 years, victims and family members of the 4 murdered Mosquitos have demanded justice without getting any answers.
Those people were there unloading their drugs. We ran into the narcos as they were being followed by the American and Honduran police. As they were unloading their drugs, the gunfire started from above and a massacre happened on our canoe. God saved me, that's why I'm here in front of you.
Now, after the release of the video which shows the helicopter firing at the canoe, human rights advocates confirm the role of the DEA in the massacre.
One way or another, we always know that these things happen from these kind of organizations. They are highly irresponsible and only care about the success of their military operations without care about collateral damage caused to civilians.
The investigation report was documented by human rights advocacy organizations who have assured that the Honduran government has protected the DEA members that took part in the operation. The United States is just as involved as Honduras. As this report makes clear, an order was given to fire upon our comrades over there in the Mosquito community. It was a member of the DEA. To this day, the Honduran government has not assumed any responsibility in the face of the victims' family members who live in one of the country's most remote and forgotten areas.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. In Washington, D.C., Donald Trump's contaminating policies are being challenged locally by law projects against climate change, which could benefit ordinary people.
It's an innovative environmental policy. Councilors and environmental activists in the U.S. Capitol are proposing a law to reduce contamination and improve family incomes, defying from the inside the only president in the world that still questions the existence of climate change.
One side of us, we have the White House. On the other side, we have the U.S. Capitol. And both of these chambers of government deny climate change. But we here on the City Council, we know that it's real. We see it, we feel it, and we have an obligation to act. My hope is that other states will see what we do. They will follow our lead, and we can continue to put pressure on the federal government.
The aim of these measures is to make polluting industries pay for their carbon dioxide emissions instead of the community, as has been the case so far.
Is pass a fee on the carbon content or a tax, un impuesto, and with the revenues raised from that tax on the carbon content of fossil fuels, we can make sure that everybody comes out ahead by returning the revenue back to DC residents.
For every ton of CO2, companies would have to pay $20, increasing every year. 75% of the tax would be returned directly to the families.
Be good for the District of Columbia. It will be good for ratepayers and average citizens all across the city. It'll be good for businesses. It'll grow the economy. It'll reduce our pollution. And we hope that we can show the rest of the country.
Other states such as Vermont and Oregon are trying to implement similar policies, but the capital is expected to be at the forefront. If the law is approved, in only the first year, a middle-class family would get a $500 refund.
They say the objective is to empower people to create conditions for democratic development, but everything seems yet to be done. Join us as we see how Somalia's internally displaced people are fleeing drought and the attacks and counterattacks of the war against terrorism. Our special correspondent in Mogadishu has the story.
Found shelter from this area because
here, next to the ruins of the old Italian embassy in Mogadishu, several families have come and settled for the Shabelle regions. They have no other shelter. Most of the children are not schooled either.
We ran out of food. We work washing clothes or pushing carts, and we don't have any. When it rains, the rooftops get flooded.
These women should be empowered to exercise their rights and get organized, but they live crowded together while they stay waiting for humanitarian aid that, according to them, never arrives. There's also other people who recently arrived.
We didn't even have access to water, and we went hungry.
Fatham got here on October 7th from Yowar, in the middle of Shabelle. She walked all the way here and was welcomed by other displaced families. She hasn't gone to look for work because she said that many of the other sheltered women are also not working. They don't only lack for food and education, but also a safe house to live in. Every time it rains here, these families have to get out because each storm causes floods.
We need help. We have nothing. We don't have medicine. We don't even have daily food.
They're coming from places like Oriole, Shanale, and Barire, talking about the difficulties that they face in rural areas and the help that they need from other countries in order for them to be able to move forward and to defend peace.
We're here for all of our brothers from Shabelle, and we need help from the Somalian or Turkish government.
Urgent needs and dangerous situations.
We've come to the end of this midday news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesiotv.net/English. And join us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesio English, I'm Sonia Gray. Thank you so much for watching.
Events told by their main figures. Research findings that transcend our people's views.
Monsanto se ve entre un buen sector de los agricultores como una gran amenaza.
Hay un montón de gente que se va a España a trabajar